What's up, folks? Money Gamer here. Imagine this. You're grinding through a tough survival game like Minecraft or Rust, scavenging resources, building your tools, and suddenly, bam, a creeper explodes your progress or a raid wipes out your stash. Heart racing, you respawn with nothing, feeling that gut punch of starting over. Now, swap that to real life a car breakdown, a surprise medical bill, or losing your job, and suddenly your bank account's in the red and stress is piling up like unpaid quests. What if I told you that building an emergency fund is like establishing your unbreakable home base in those games? A safe zone where you can regroup without losing everything. Stick around as we level up your financial strategy, turning chaos into calm control. Picture yourself in the middle of a survival game, heart pounding as threats close in, but then you retreat to your fortified base, untouchable, stocked, and ready. That's exactly what an emergency fund does in real life. It's your protected hub against unexpected hits like a busted appliance or a sudden layoff. Without it, every setback feels like game over. But with it, you breathe easy knowing you've got a buffer to keep playing. Building one isn't about hoarding gold, it's about creating peace of mind so you can focus on the fun parts of the game, your life. We've all been there, haven't we? That nagging voice saying, I should save more, but then life throws curveballs and the common advice feels like a broken tutorial. You hear things like, just cut out lattes or save 3 months' expenses overnight, as if it's that simple. But let's reframe this. This typical approach fails because it treats money like a sprint in a racing game when it's really a marathon in an open world RPG. Most folks dive in without understanding why emergencies hit so hard. It's not just the cash, it's the emotional toll. You feel behind like you're the only one without a maxed out inventory. But normalize this. Surveys show over half of Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 surprise without debt. It's not laziness, it's the system designed like a game with hidden traps. Rising costs, stagnant wages, and that dopamine hit from impulse buys that actually derail your progress. In games like Stardew Valley, you can't just farm endlessly without planning for winter. Real life sneaks up the same way. The problem isn't you, it's approaching savings without a strategy map, leading to burnout or giving up entirely. But what if we flipped the script, seeing your emergency fund not as a chore, but as your ultimate survive haven? Let's unpack why an emergency fund acts like your home base in survival games. Psychologically, humans are wired for immediate gratification. It's that behavioral bias called hyperbolic discounting, where we value now over later. Think about it. In World of Warcraft, you'd rather spend gold on a shiny mount or new gear than sock it away for eventual raid repairs, right? But then a wipe happens and you're broke, scrambling. Real life mirrors this. A study from the Federal Reserve highlights how, without a buffer, people turn to high interest credit cards, trapping themselves in debt cycles that compound like interest in the wrong direction. I've been there personally. Early in my software engineering days, I treated my paycheck like loot from a dungeon run, splurging on discount Steam sales instead of building reserves. Then, boom, my freelance gig would fall through, and I was eating ramen and beans for weeks, stressing over bills. It's that same panic in hardcore WoW when you're at the bottom of a dungeon without pots or a Hearthstone off cooldown. In survival games like Rust, your base isn't just walls, it's layered defenses, turrets, storage, and escape routes to protect against raids. Your emergency fund should work the same. You start with the basics, like covering 1 month's essentials, then build up to 3 to 6 months as you level up. Why? Because emergencies are not rare bosses, they're random events. A relatable example, your friend group plans a board game night with Monopoly, and you realize that one bad roll, like a simulated job loss, lands you at your friend's place with a big red hotel and it bankrupts you without savings. In my years playing Euro style engine builders, I've seen how efficiency comes from compounding small actions. You save a little each turn, you plan for the next, and suddenly you're dominating. Behaviorally, this fund reduces anxiety. Research from psychologists show that loss aversion makes us fear losing what we have more than gaining. Without a base, every decision feels risky, like exploring a new zone unarmed. But with it, you gain mental bandwidth for better plays like investing or even career risks. Let's look at another game. In Mountain Blade, you build your kingdom by securing resources against sieges. Real world parallels? families dealing with unexpected vet bills for pets, or freelancers hit by client delays. Without a fund, it's just chaos. I remember a buddy in my WoW guild who quit raiding because real life car repairs drained him. He just couldn't focus or have fun. Gaming teaches us patience. In a game like Satisfactory, you automate factories for long term output, not quick grabs. Financially, it's similar. Automate transfers to a high yield savings account, treat it like resource nodes that grow passively. And don't forget the subtle traps. Availability bias makes us overestimate rare events after hearing horror stories, but underestimate everyday leaks like subscriptions. In Crusader Kings 3, ignoring small threats leads to realm collapse. Same with ignoring minor expenses eroding your fund. Through these lenses, building this base isn't drudgery, it's strategic mastery, blending psychology with practical mechanics to shield your progress. Ever notice how in survival games without a solid home base, every adventure feels terrifying? You're constantly on edge, one mistake from losing it all. That's the aha moment with emergency funds. It's not just money, it's a mindset reframe from scarcity to security. Common advice says save big chunks, but that fails because it ignores our brain's wiring for instant rewards. Instead, view it as fortifying your spawn point, a buffer that lets you take calculated risks without fear, turning financial stress into strategic gameplay. Suddenly, life's uncertainties become manageable side quests, not game enders. Now, the turning point. This insight shifts everything. The real aha is realizing your emergency fund isn't a penalty box, it's your launch pad to freedom. It changes decision making from reactive scrambling to proactive planning. Tie this to long term liberty. With a base secured, you can pursue side hustles, negotiate better jobs, or even pivot careers without desperation. In Stellaris, star empires fall without reserves against crises, but with them, you can rule the galaxy. Personally, after building my emergency fund, I weathered a tech layoff wave calmly, using the time to upskill in AI, turning setback into upgrade. This mindset flip empowers you. Money becomes a tool, not a tyrant. No more sleepless nights over what ifs. Instead, quiet confidence knowing you've got armor. It ties directly to compounding freedom. Start small, and over time, that fund grows, freeing mental energy for wealth building quests like index funds or skill investments. The shift? Patience wins, just as a hardcore Pokemon Nuzlocke challenge rewards careful team building over rushing. Financial security builds from consistent low risk moves. Embrace this, and you're not just surviving, you're thriving with the game on your terms. For practical takeaways, let's keep it grounded. Progress over perfection. First, assess your base level. Track 1 month's expenses, trimming non essentials like unused apps, those unused subscriptions, aiming to save $50 to $100 weekly via auto transfers. Think of it as gathering starter resources in a new game world. Here's a highly actionable tip for building your emergency fund. Start by opening a separate high yield savings account. Rates are about 4 to 5% now, way better than checking. Automate transfers of just $20 to $50 per paycheck right after payday, treating it like passive resource generation in a simulation game. Label it home base to remind yourself it's untouchable, except for true emergencies, not wants. In a month, you'll see how it grows without effort, giving that first win to build momentum. Remember, small, consistent deposits compound into real security. Next, define emergencies clearly. Job loss, repairs, health, not vacations. Use apps like Monarch Money or even BudgetWise for visibility, like a mini map in a game. If debt's high, focus there first, but allocate even 10% to the fund for dual progress. And here's a gem: side gigs, like freelancing on skills from your day job, can accelerate. I've done coding tasks just to boost mine. No rush, celebrate milestones like treating a small goal as a level up achievement. These steps are bite sized, turning overwhelmed into wins. Wrapping up, remember, building your home base is about reclaiming peace in a chaotic world. You've got this. Small strategies compound into big freedoms, just like in our favorite games. Feel that calm settling in? That's the goal. Thanks for hanging out, folks. If this resonated, hit like, subscribe for more gaming twists on finance, and comment your biggest emergency fund win or question below. Catch you in the next level.